The story of Marvel Comics did not start with a bang. It began quietly in 1939. A man named Martin Goodman saw an opportunity. Pulp magazines were his business. He published stories of adventure and mystery, but a new kind of publication was gaining traction. Comic books were becoming popular. Superman had arrived a year earlier, in 1938. Goodman wanted a piece of this new market. He decided to launch his own line of comic books. This venture was named Timely Comics. Goodman was not a comic book fanatic himself. He was a businessman, always looking for the next trend. He observed the success of National Allied Publications, which would later become DC Comics. Their characters like Superman and Batman were flying off the newsstands. Goodman knew he needed his own heroes. He founded Timely Publications, operating from his existing office space. He gathered a small team. His goal was simple: create comic books that would sell. Little did he know, he was laying the foundation for a future entertainment giant. The first comic book released under the Timely banner was titled Number One. The cover date was October 1939. This single issue would prove to be a significant starting point. It introduced characters that would capture the imagination of readers. The world was on the brink of war. People were looking for escapism and heroes. Timely Comics aimed to provide just that. The early days were about experimentation. They threw ideas at the wall to see what would stick. This was a common practice in the nascent comic industry. The launch of Timely Comics was a gamble. The comic book industry was young and unpredictable. Goodman leveraged his existing distribution networks from his pulp magazine empire. This gave Timely an advantage many new publishers lacked. He hired Funnies Inc., an independent studio, to provide the actual content. This studio was run by Lloyd Jacket. They supplied the stories and art for that pivotal first issue. Goodman was essentially the publisher and financier. He focused on getting the books printed and into the hands of readers across America. Inside the pages of Number One, a new kind of hero burst forth. This was the Human Torch. He was not a man who gained fire powers. He was an android, a synthetic being. Created by writer-artist Carl Burgos, the Human Torch was a striking figure. His body could ignite into living flame. He could fly and project fireballs. This Human Torch was very different from the later hero of the Fantastic Four. His name was Jim Hammond, an artificial man created by scientist Phineas Horton. The Human Torch's origin story was quite dramatic. Professor Horton unveiled his creation to the public, but when exposed to oxygen, the android burst into flames. The public reacted with fear, calling him a menace. The torch was then sealed in concrete. He later escaped, full of confusion and anger. He struggled to understand his place in the world. This theme of the misunderstood outsider would become a hallmark of later Marvel characters. The Torch was a powerful, almost terrifying figure in these early tales. He was not always heroic in the traditional sense. The success of Number One was immediate. The initial print run of 80,000 copies sold out quickly. Goodman ordered a second printing of 800,000 copies. This was a huge number for the time. The Human Torch was clearly a hit. He became Timely's first major star. His adventures continued, often battling criminals and saboteurs. He was soon joined by another popular character from that first issue, Namor the Submariner. These two characters often clashed, creating exciting early crossovers. Carl Burgos, the Torch's creator, was a key artist for Timely in its early years. His dynamic artwork helped define the character's fiery appeal. The Human Torch stories were filled with action and spectacle. He was a visually exciting hero. His flaming form was instantly recognizable on comic book covers. This helped Timely Comics establish its presence. The Torch represented the raw, untamed energy of this new publisher. He was a bold statement in a world looking for larger-than-life figures. His popularity paved the way for more heroes to come from Timely. As the world edged closer to global conflict, Timely Comics introduced a new hero. This hero was explicitly tied to the looming war. In late 1940, with a cover date of March 1941, Number One hit the stands. The cover itself was a bold statement. It depicted Captain America punching Adolf Hitler in the jaw. This was months before the United States officially entered World War II. The creation of Captain America was a direct response to the political climate. He was designed to be a symbol of American patriotism. Captain America was the brainchild of Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. This creative duo was incredibly prolific and influential. Simon was the editor and writer. Kirby provided the groundbreaking dynamic artwork. They envisioned a hero who embodied American ideals. The origin story involved a frail young man named Steve Rogers. He was deemed unfit for military service. Rogers volunteered for a secret government experiment, the super soldier serum. The serum transformed him into the peak of human physical perfection. He became Captain America, a living weapon against tyranny. The impact of Captain America was phenomenal. The first issue sold nearly 1 million copies. Readers, particularly young boys, were captivated by this patriotic champion. He fought Nazis, spies and saboteurs with his iconic shield. His sidekick, Bucky Barnes, joined him in these adventures. Captain America became Timely's most popular character during the war years. He represented hope and defiance against a very real enemy. The stories were often direct propaganda, encouraging support for the war effort. This was common in comics of that era. Joe Simon and Jack Kirby did not stay with Timely for long after creating Captain America. They had disagreements with Martin Goodman over payments and creative control. They soon moved to National Comics, which would later become DC. However, their creation, Captain America, continued to thrive at Timely. Many other artists and writers worked on the character. The star-spangled hero became an enduring symbol. His creation marked a significant moment in Timely's history. It proved the publisher could create characters with lasting appeal and cultural resonance, especially during times of national crisis. After World War II ended in 1945, the landscape of American culture began to change. The intense patriotism that fueled superhero comics started to wane. Soldiers returned home and the nation looked towards rebuilding and peace. Superhero comics, once dominant, saw a significant decline in popularity. Readers' tastes shifted towards other genres. Timely Comics, like other publishers, had to adapt to survive. The demand for heroes like Captain America and the Human Torch dwindled. Their titles were eventually cancelled in the late 1940s. Martin Goodman was a pragmatic publisher. He followed the trends. If superheroes weren't selling, he would publish what did. Timely Comics began to diversify its output significantly. The company started producing comics in a wide array of genres. Romance comics became incredibly popular in the post-war era. Westerns, crime stories, horror comics, and funny animal books also filled the newsstands. Timely changed its name informally several times, often using different logos like Atlas News Company for its distribution arm. The focus was on quantity and variety. This period, roughly from the late 1940s through the 1950s, was challenging. The comic book industry faced scrutiny. Dr. Frederick Wertham's book in 1954 criticized comics. He claimed they corrupted youth, particularly crime and horror titles. This led to public outcry and the formation of the Comics Code Authority in 1954. The CCA imposed strict content guidelines. This further impacted the types of stories that could be told. Many publishers struggled under these new restrictions and changing tastes. During this era, Stan Lee, Martin Goodman's cousin-in-law, was working at Timely. He had started there as an assistant in 1939. By the 1950s, he was the main editor and art director. Lee was responsible for churning out stories across all these different genres. He wrote romance, horror, science fiction, and westerns. It was a period of hard work and learning the craft. While superheroes were out of vogue, the company kept publishing. They were waiting for the next big wave. This period of genre experimentation, though difficult, set the stage for what was to come. Section 5, The Marvel Revolution, a new name for a new era. By the late 1950s, superheroes were showing signs of a comeback. DC Comics had successfully revived characters like The Flash and Green Lantern. They introduced new concepts like the Justice League of America. Martin Goodman noticed this resurgence. He reportedly told his editor, Stan Lee, to create a superhero team for their company. Goodman wanted to compete with DC's success. This directive would spark a creative explosion. It would lead to the birth of the Marvel comics we know today. In 1961, Stan Lee and artist Jack Kirby co-created the Fantastic Four. This was not just another superhero team. The Fantastic Four were different. They were a family. They squabbled, had personal problems, and were not always sure of their powers. This was a departure from the godlike, perfect heroes of the past. The Fantastic Four felt more human, more relatable. The first issue was a hit. It signaled a new direction for the company. Soon after, the company began to officially use the Marvel Comics brand on its covers, the name that Marvel Comics had appeared before. It was the title of Timely's first comic in 1939. Now, it became the banner for a new age of heroes. This rebranding in the early 1960s was significant. It marked a shift in creative style and philosophy. Marvel Comics were characterized by their flawed heroes and complex storylines. They often addressed real-world issues and anxieties. The Cold War, the space race, and social change found their way into the narratives. This made Marvel stand out. The decision to rebrand and refocus on superheroes was a turning point. It was a gamble, much like Timely's initial launch, but this time the company had Stan Lee's creative vision. He was tired of writing generic stories. He wanted to create comics that he himself would enjoy reading. This passion, combined with the artistic talents of Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, fueled the Marvel age of comics. The name Marvel became synonymous with a new, more dynamic and more human approach to superhero storytelling. It was the start of a revolution in the industry. Section 6, the creative titans, Lee, Kirby, and Ditko forged legends. The early 1960s at Marvel Comics were defined by an incredible burst of creativity. This was largely driven by three key individuals: Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and Steve Ditko. Stan Lee, as editor-in-chief and primary writer, was the public face of Marvel. He developed a unique conversational writing style. He filled the comics with witty dialogue and dramatic narration. Lee also fostered a sense of community with readers through letters pages and bullpen bulletins. He made Marvel feel like a club. Jack Kirby, often called the King of Comics, was a powerhouse of artistic innovation. His dynamic layouts, powerful character designs, and cosmic imagination were unparalleled. Kirby co-created the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Thor, the X-Men, and many others with Lee. His artwork brought a sense of scale and energy to Marvel's stories. Kirby was a veteran of the industry. He had co-created Captain America 2 decades earlier. His return to prominence at Marvel was a key factor in its success. He was a master storyteller in his own right. Steve Ditko was another crucial artistic force. He had a distinctive, somewhat quirky art style. Ditko co-created Spider-Man with Stan Lee. He was instrumental in defining Spider-Man's look and feel. Ditko's depiction of Peter Parker's awkwardness and Spider-Man's acrobatic agility was iconic. He also co-created Doctor Strange, bringing a mystical and surreal dimension to the Marvel universe. Ditko was known for his strong storytelling principles and often plotted stories himself. He was a more enigmatic figure than Lee or Kirby. Together, Lee, Kirby, and Ditko, along with other talented artists and writers, formed the Marvel bullpen. There has been much debate over the exact contributions of each creator. The Marvel method of story creation often involved the artist plotting the story from a brief synopsis by Lee. Lee would then add dialogue and captions. This collaborative, sometimes contentious process produced a string of hit characters and titles. These creators were the architects of the Marvel universe. Their work laid the foundation for decades of stories and a global entertainment phenomenon. Their combined vision shaped modern mythology. Section 7, a new breed of hero: Spider-Man, the Hulk, and relatable struggles. Marvel's new heroes in the 1960s were a departure from the traditional mold. They were often outsiders, flawed, and burdened by their powers. One of the most revolutionary creations was Spider-Man. He debuted in number 15 in 1962. Co-created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, Spider-Man was teenager Peter Parker. He was a science whiz, but also an orphan, shy and often bullied. When he gained spider-like powers, his life became more complicated, not less. He struggled with guilt, responsibility, and everyday problems like paying rent. Another groundbreaking character was the Hulk. Co-created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the Hulk first appeared in number 1 in 1962. Dr. Bruce Banner, a brilliant scientist, was caught in a gamma bomb explosion. This transformed him into the monstrous, incredibly strong, and often uncontrollable Hulk. The Hulk was a modern-day Jekyll and Hyde. He was a creature of rage and anguish. He was hunted and misunderstood. This was far from the noble, confident heroes of the Golden Age. The Hulk represented the anxieties of the Atomic Age. These characters, and others like the X-Men, mutants feared and hated by humanity. and Daredevil, a blind lawyer with heightened senses, resonated deeply with readers. They reflected a sense of alienation that many young people felt. Marvel heroes had personal lives. They worried about money, relationships, and public perception. This made them feel real. Readers could identify with their struggles. This was a key element of Marvel's appeal. The heroes were powerful, but they were also recognizably human. The Marvel Universe itself became a character. Stories often crossed over. Heroes met, fought, and teamed up. Events in one comic could have repercussions in another. This created a rich, interconnected tapestry. Readers felt like they were part of a larger, ongoing saga. Stan Lee's engaging editorial voice further enhanced this sense of community. He spoke directly to the readers, making them feel like insiders. This new breed of hero, with their relatable problems and interconnected world, cemented Marvel's place as a major force in comics. Section 8, Beyond the Page: Marvel's Cultural Conquest. As Marvel's popularity soared in the 1960s, its influence began to extend beyond comic books. The vibrant characters and compelling stories captured the public imagination. College students in particular embraced Marvel's more sophisticated themes and flawed heroes. Characters like Spider-Man and the Hulk became counterculture icons. Their images started appearing on posters, t-shirts, and other merchandise. This was an early sign of Marvel's potential as a significant cultural force. The Marvel age was not just about comics, it was about a new way of looking at heroes. The first major media adaptations began to appear. In 1966, animated television series brought characters like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, and Submariner to the small screen. These cartoons were made with very limited animation. They often used panels directly from the comic books. Despite their low budget, they introduced Marvel characters to a wider audience. In 1967, a more popular animated series followed. Its catchy theme song became instantly recognizable and is still famous today. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, Marvel continued to expand its reach. Live-action television shows featuring the Incredible Hulk, starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno, became a massive success. This show, in particular, brought a Marvel character into mainstream consciousness like never before. There were also TV movies and attempts at other series. Marvel characters started appearing in video games, toys, and numerous other products. The company understood the power of licensing its intellectual property. This became an increasingly important revenue stream. Marvel's impact on pop culture was growing steadily. The language of Marvel, its characters, and its storytelling tropes began to permeate society. Terms like Spidey Sense or Hulk out entered the lexicon. The idea of a shared universe, pioneered by Marvel in comics, would later become a dominant model for blockbuster filmmaking. The company faced financial ups and downs over the decades, but its characters had taken root in the cultural landscape. They were more than just comic book figures, they were modern myths, recognized and beloved around the world. Section 9, An Everlasting Universe, The Enduring Legacy of Marvel. From its humble beginnings as Timely Comics in 1939, Marvel has undergone a remarkable transformation. Martin Goodman's initial venture aimed to capitalize on the new comic book craze. Early creations like the Human Torch and Captain America laid a foundation. They provided heroic figures during a time of global uncertainty. The company navigated the changing tastes of the post-war era. It experimented with various genres before rediscovering its superheroic destiny. The rebranding to Marvel Comics in the 1960s heralded a creative renaissance. The collaborative genius of Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, and others gave birth to a universe of iconic characters. Spider-Man, the Hulk, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and countless others redefined what a superhero could be. These heroes were flawed, relatable, and faced real-world problems. This approach resonated deeply with readers. It set Marvel apart from its competitors. The interconnectedness of the Marvel Universe created a rich and immersive reading experience. It fostered a dedicated fan base that has spanned generations. Marvel's influence has extended far beyond the printed page. Its characters have become staples of television, film, video games, and merchandise. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, launched in the 21st century, has become one of the most successful film franchises in history. It brought Marvel's characters and storytelling style to a global audience on an unprecedented scale. This cinematic success is a testament to the enduring appeal of the heroes and stories created decades ago. The themes of responsibility, heroism, and the struggle against adversity continue to resonate. Today, Marvel stands as a giant in the entertainment industry. Its journey from a small publishing house to a cultural powerhouse is a remarkable story. It is a story of vision, creativity, and adaptation. The legacy of Marvel is not just in its vast library of characters and stories. It is in its impact on how we tell and consume heroic narratives. It is in the inspiration it provides to millions of fans worldwide. The Marvel Universe continues to evolve, introducing new characters and exploring new frontiers. Its epic origin story is a testament to the power of imagination and the enduring need for heroes.